Good afternoon. Welcome back after lunch. I'm really pleased. I'm Caroline Wright. I'm Director General of the British Educational Suppliers Association. So if you've had a chance to go up to the show upstairs, we've got the British Pavilion with the Great British Classroom. So I'm from the UK. Really pleased to be here. I'm going to be chairing the next couple of sessions. But we have an exciting panel discussion coming up on ELT, supporting ELT, English language training with technology. English is becoming more and more vital in a global context. So how can technology enable better language learning? So we've got an absolutely amazing panel here. I'm just introduce them very briefly, and then they're going to actually talk about what they're doing in their current roles. And then we'll have a discussion where I'll ask a few questions. Then I'd really like to open it out to you guys to ask some questions of the panel. So I'm delighted to introduce Andres Montejo, who's the Managing Director for the international elements of Kurzweil Education from the USA. We have Katrin Sachs, who's head of the Language Centre at Pärnu College, Estonia. We have Marianne Jones, who's the Product Development Manager from ILA Vietnam. And Mamoru Komachi, who's the Associate Professor from the Faculty of System Design at Tokyo Metropolitan University. So we've got a really diverse panel from around the world. So I think that's an amazing opportunity for us to talk about language training in an international context. So welcome. If I can start off from left to right, it will be fantastic. Is it on, the microphone? Test. Could somebody help with the microphone, please? Thank you.
Test. Sorry about that. Hi, so my name is Andres Montejo. I work with Kurzweil Education. We are a Boston, Massachusetts-based company. We create products for individuals that have low vision or suffer from blindness. And we also have another product that is for individuals who are struggling with reading, writing, and are also endeavoring to learn English as a second language. As well, our products are quite handy for individuals that suffer from learning disabilities, i.e. dysgraphia, dyslexia, ADD, ADHD.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. As Caroline said, my name is Katrin Sachs. And I come from Estonia, the University of Tartu, Pärnu College. I don't really think that you know what or where Estonia is, but I would like to give you two key words. One is Skype. Skype was born in Estonia, and we're really proud of it. Another key word comes from yesterday's presentation made by Pasi Saalberg. If you remember, there was a little blue, black, white flag up in heaven. This is also Estonia. I have been working in a secondary education for more than 20 years. At the moment, I'm in tertiary education, teaching professional English to young adults. Estonia is a lucky country because we have state-run programs for many years already. And this is the reason why ICT tools have been integrated in teaching learning processes for many years already. And I can also say that ICT makes one part of my everyday work and a big part of our students' studies.
Okay, hi everybody. Is this working? Okay, sorry. I'm Marianne. I'm currently based with ILA in Vietnam. My background comes from the classroom. From practically using tablets and apps differently with students to get them to create projects, presentations. At the moment in Vietnam, we're working using PBL and tablets in the classroom. And I'm also responsible for the Young Learners course that we deliver in-house and integrating tech into pre-service training for teachers as well to hopefully cascade out.
Okay, I'm Mamoru Komachi from Tokyo Metropolitan University. Before coming to Tokyo Metropolitan University, I was working at Apple, developing a Japanese development method, because in Japanese and Chinese, the characters are very complex, so we need to convert Roman alphabet to Chinese characters. So that's why I tried natural language processing, computer science technology to help Japanese people type kanji or Chinese characters. And 3 years ago, I changed my research topic to helping language learners and teachers by using natural language processing techniques. And actually, we built a state-of-the-art grammatical error correction system 3 years ago, and it was the performance was something like 40% accuracy. But even if using the system, students have very difficult experience, very difficult to write English sentences, especially for Japanese learners of English. And recently, I switched my research topic again to machine translation. And 2 months ago, Google released a neural network-based machine translation system that is very competitive to human translators. And yesterday, Microsoft announced their model, their neural machine translation model that competes to statistical machine translation that is previously developed by Microsoft Research. So things are changing using technologies to help students or language learners to express their thoughts. So that's one of the things technology can help.
Thank you very much. I suppose first question from me is, we just sort of said technology can help, but actually, have you evidence to show that using technology has helped a particular sort of uptake of language understanding in your roles, and how particularly have you found that technology could help? I think that would be very useful to know. Who'd like to start?
Sure. So if any of you pass by our booth, we've been running a video sort of on loop. And one of our users is actually, so we have obviously millions of users, but we recorded this one user in particular. She's a Quechua Indian from South America. So her native language is Quechua. She's a Spanish speaker, but she moved to the US because she wanted to learn English, right? So she was in this crux, in this sort of soup, very confusing, because she's interchanging from 2 languages, but she's trying to learn English. Utilizing our software, it helped to provide a level of comfort where she was able to upload these documents, and by way of the translation technology that we have embedded into our software, it was able to not only translate it on the spot, but even in reading it, she was able to manipulate how quickly, how slowly it read back to her. Even the cadence, or even the intonation or the accent of the voice, she was able to choose the type of voice that was reading back to her. Male, female, even accented, a Spanish-speaking accent reading back to her. So I think just things like these help to ameliorate a listener, a user, someone that's trying to embrace something as difficult as trying to learn another language. It doesn't need to be a second language. It could be a third, fourth, fifth language. I'm a Spanish native speaker, and I remember just even as a kid coming to America, it was a completely new world. I wish I would have had software technology. I didn't. I actually had one-on-one. Actually, maybe in hindsight, that was probably even better. But that was then, this is today. This is 2016, and moving forward, we need to embrace technology, and I think we need to embrace it holistically, not be afraid to embrace it. It's tough when you're embracing something that is completely new, and now we have mobile applications, and what mobile application are you going to use? Are you going to use an application? Is it native? What software are you running? What computer are you going to be running? All these questions that maybe have nothing to do with your natural inclination for learning, but I think that it's necessary in order to sort of be able to take it to the next level.
That's right. I know personally, coming from England, go on lots and lots of family holidays to France, and I think, I know exactly what I want to say in French. I'm ready to say it, and then I'm completely thrown when someone actually understands and answers back, and then I can't understand the speed, and so I would have very much benefited from that kind of technology personally. Katrin.
Yeah, Andres, you gave a very good example how technology may benefit. But I suppose that we as teachers have to remember that technology is, first of all, still a tool. And a lot depends on how we use it and how well we can implement it. I would like to give some examples from my own environment. Estonian schools have been provided with technology for many, many years already. When the whole classes were given laptop computers, a couple of years ago, tablets were given to all students to use in the learning process. And after a year of use, that sort of technology in the classroom, they also measured whether using info technology has given any added value. What about the learning results, the learning outcomes? And the sad conclusion was that no, the learning outcomes, the learning results didn't really improve. So I would like to say that technology alone is not everything. So much depends on teachers, on humans, on pedagogy, which is applied in the learning process. So if we as teachers are not clever enough to use it in a smart way, then we cannot expect any results. So a lot depends on us.
Okay, thank you. Marianne.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. One of the best things I think I ever read a couple of years ago in a presentation was that if it doesn't add value, don't use it. And I still go with that ethos very much now with my students. If it's at a substitution level and it doesn't add value, and me getting you to write on a tablet is going to make it harder than you using a pencil, then I don't need to use a tablet. I have one example of really insightful tech use. I had a boys' class a couple of years ago teaching in Abu Dhabi, and they hated writing. And when they'd write, they'd give me things, and there would be mistakes all over it. And they're like, "Okay, teacher, just tell me what's wrong. Like, it's fine. Just take it from me." And it was a way of like getting them to take ownership for these mistakes and being able to identify these mistakes. And they were capital letters or full stops, or were words missing or spelt wrong. So we started to blog. And the first time they did it, they did exactly the same thing they did in class. They just put exactly what they wrote on a paper onto their blog. And they all had to start giving each other feedback. And they were like, "Oh, miss, what does that word mean?" And I was like, "Ask him." So then they came back to me. That student would come back to me and go like, "He said he doesn't understand." And I was like, "Well, did you check it? What's wrong with it?" And they started to kind of check more before they posted online. And it stopped students kind of copy and pasting sentences or things that they'd read as well to get out of doing it. And it also made them, it did actually improve their writing. We did it over an 8-week term. And their paragraph writing and sentence structure did actually improve in that time. And what I found out shortly after as well was that some of the kids were still blogging about stuff they'd done, and they'd put extra blog posts online from stuff they'd done at the weekend and stuff as well. So they really took ownership of that as well, but they also took the credibility and they were given praise for it. So I'd comment and other students would comment as well. So that feedback loop was very much in play, and that really went really well with them.
Thank you. Mamoru.
Yeah, I completely agree with Marianne's experience, and let me share some of the experience I learned from building a grammatical error correction for English as a second language learners. So we first built grammatical error corrections automatically, but people just rely on the result, so they didn't want to check the result. And then we noticed that we changed the system just to detect the errors and point the errors, and they needed to check the actual expressions and alter the words by themselves. And then students can learn how to use the correct words. So the key point to build a system for language learners is to put a stress or give some feedback to language learners. So using the system to write flawlessly is not a perfect solution to language learners. We need to do extra things for students, and teachers should let students know they need to do something to practice their language ability.
Thank you. That's very useful. I mean, just given the world is a very large place, you're from 4 different places in it. Have you used technology to very much like Kurzweil, kind of link you to other countries for language training at all?
I've done teacher training with teachers like that, not so much linking students, but where I've needed specialist help, then I've managed to get someone to Skype into the training session. Or I've done training in the Middle East where the idea of the cloud, I guess, for some people is still quite a thing that we can't always define. And we had a group of new teachers that had come to the school, and we connected to somebody in the UK, and we were using Shobi. And they were more amazed by the fact that he would send it and they would receive it. And obviously it was early hours in the morning in the UK compared to where we were. So I've used it for bringing in specialists and just showing like how powerful technology can be. They were sent tasks, they were sending tasks back on Shobi, and he was also giving them feedback and it was showing up. So it was just showing how much it was done in real time as well.
So any other examples?
Yeah, when working at school with younger students, and many years ago actually, we had a very wonderful project to the students in Tampa, in Florida. And this was a nice experience for my students who were around 11, 12 years old at that time. And I noticed that when communicating with other students in the other part of the world, when practicing their language, which was at the very beginner's level at that time, this kind of opened up the world for them. They started to perceive that the world is much more than their own home and school, and they found friends for them there, and I hope that some of them still communicate to them. So there are actually very many examples of that. Considering the fact that English is the language of computer and the language of internet, actually there are no borders anymore for communicating, for collaboration. It's all one world.
Thank you. I guess actually, Marianne, you touched on it, but I'd be really keen to get your views on teacher training. Obviously, you're doing English language tuition for students. How enabled do you think teacher training is in your different countries on helping teachers use technology effectively in delivering language training?
We were just having a discussion about this upstairs. For me, I've done teacher training in a couple of different countries now over the last 9 years, and what I find with a lot of teacher training, especially where education technology is concerned, is that it's still very technical. And kind of getting across kind of the logistics that teachers have to deal with in a classroom and all the variables that can go wrong and just how to deal with them. And also like when you should be using the tech in your lesson and when it's not necessary. They present a lot of challenges. And there's a kind of an argument, I guess, between they need training, but if it's not actually effective, is it doing more damage? From my perspective and how I train, I put my trainees in the same situation the students go in, and I will deliberately kind of make sure that certain things don't work or will happen, so that they can see kind of how I deal with them, but also that it's okay that it goes wrong or it doesn't work or we have to change something. And then I get them to analyze how they felt about it and what I did, and then I get them to build their own and redeliver. So it's part of a process. But I do find that it's still predominantly a lot more technical than methodological.
Thank you. Anyone else have a view on that?
I have understood that different countries have got a very different understanding and approach to these problems. I can give examples from my own country again. In Estonia, certain courses on using ICT in the learning teaching process and also digital pedagogy have become a part of teacher training pre-service curricular as well as in-service trainings. And this is a natural part of teachers' preparation. And it cannot be just teaching technical skills, how to upload, download, how to manage with different software programs. But this is more about the ideology, how to use, when to use, why to use, just as you said. So as long as we as teachers haven't understood the idea and the reasons of using infotechnology in the learning process, we cannot use it in the smart and sensible way and effectively. So we have to think it over and understand ourselves why to use and whether to use it at all.
I think that's actually just to sort of piggyback off of that. As an exhibitor and coming from a company that creates content that's going to be used, that certainly is something that I think manufacturers need to really keep in mind, right? Sort of keeping those tenets of universal design language, right? A well thought out product is one that will be used. A product that has incentives embedded within is a product that's going to be used. Something that is poorly designed is something that simply is not going to get lots of use. We've all been to restaurants or places or in new environments where you go to open the door and you literally stare at the door and you have no idea, how am I going to open it? That's a poorly designed door. I think that's the same thing for software and for technology. There is lots of poorly made technology, I think even in the English learning space. And I think we need to be mindful of that. And we need to push manufacturers, push these product creators. This is not good enough. It's not good enough.
So a little bit off topic, but I extracted the knowledge for grammatical correction from a website called Langate, which facilitates language exchange. So native speakers of English correct the language learners' writings, and they in turn can write, for example, Japanese sentences, and Japanese sentences who want to learn English correct that. So in that way, people can communicate with each other, even that their goal is different. So, for example, people in the English countries want to, for example, talk about animes and games. And so even if their language ability is different, they can exchange their thought, they can exchange their experience. And not only specialized English teachers, but also learners of Japanese and English can teach with each other and improve their language skill.
Can I just add one more thing?
Absolutely.
When you talk about teacher training, getting buy-in from teachers is incredibly important, because when a teacher comes into any kind of EdTech training, they come in with different anxieties and also kind of their own background of using technology, whether it's in the classroom or not. If they've had a bad experience or positive experience, that comes with them as their baggage. But one thing that's really important, especially when you talk about apps and how user-friendly they are, teachers have to teach these to students. So they have to be kind of simple and easy to use so that you can get them across to teachers so that they're willing to use them, so they don't see the difficulties in them passing that on to students. And I think if it's too complex in training, it's going to be too complex to try. So when you're introducing apps and tools, you really have to think about the gradient of what they can do and how difficult they are as well.
That's really helpful, thank you. Should we take some questions from the audience, please? Who's got a good question for the lady there?
Good afternoon. My name's Deborah Priest and I'm the principal of the Australian International School. One of the priorities that we've got at our school is to support our local teachers to improve, or teachers and staff, our non-academic staff, to improve their local, their use of English language, particularly in the written form. So spoken and listening are fine. We can communicate very, very well. They can generally read reasonably well, but when it comes to writing, it's an issue. So one of the questions I'd like to know is, do you have any recommendations of some online programs that are free? Because I'm looking at scaling this to quite a large number of staff, so a cost is a big issue. Are there any online programs that you could direct me to, or websites that might be very helpful in improving written English, please?
Kaizena, Kaizena. It's very easy to use. You can set up groups, and it's a great way to create a collaborative writing that a teacher can watch and give feedback, both verbal feedback as well as annotations and things. And it's all kept in the cloud through Google Docs. Yep.
Any thoughts on that from the panel?
I cannot suggest really any certain program for that, but an idea came to my mind connected with finding suitable environments and programs. There are certain repositories which have brought together different programs, study materials. One example is, for example, Merlot, which is run by Californian University, I suppose. And I'm sure that many countries have put together their own repositories as well. We have got very good repository working in Estonia. Unfortunately, it is not useful for you if you don't understand Estonian. But this would be my first step if I need a kind of environment or material where I start looking for. Merlot, just like
the wine.
Yeah. Yes.
That's actually an excellent resource.
Yeah.
For really a variety of topics.
And very updated.
Absolutely. It's completely
And
free
high
too.
quality materials there. Also compiled by practicing teachers.
Any other thoughts?
I don't have any. My experience with mostly doing writing has either been blogging online with students, collaborating in Google Docs, or if I've had really low-level learners, then I've had to build kind of handwriting templates in iBooks. So I don't know how useful that would be.
There are two UK products that I know. I mean, there's the TES, the Times Educational Supplement in the UK, that is actually have the worldwide offering for teachers putting up their own lesson plans for particular subjects that are free to download. So that's available. And there's actually another one of the companies that's upstairs called Pobble, is a kind of an English language writing tool for primary school pupils that they share. They might write something or a short story in English that they then share with the sort of the worldwide community of Pobble users, and then children kind of, it's a bit like sort of rate each other's work and kind of say how much they like it, and then they do little awards for the the piece of writing that's most liked around the world by other children and so on for periods of time. So they're just sort of two thoughts from me. Any question from the lady there? Got a mic? Thanks.
Hi, I'm Cheng Pia. Hi, I'm Cheng Pia from Cambridge English, the University of Cambridge. We do have a free software that is for writing. We have just launched it 2 months ago. It's called Write and Improve. So if you Google it, Write and Improve from Cambridge English, University of Cambridge, you could upload your essays or a paragraph. What it would do instantaneously is to give you recommendations, suggestion on correction, including what is your English language proficiency in the Common European Framework. So that is a free software from our corpus. So if you could just Google it, it is a free software for everybody to be to use for students and for teachers. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
If I could add one thing. So I'm a huge advocate for free anything, right? Go for it, explore it. It's a beautiful universe. However, when you begin to deal with individuals that might be English learners who are also individuals that might have a learning disability, free will probably have massive limitations for you, right? Because an individual that finds it very difficult to focus unless there's a free application, which I don't really know of, just because it requires a lot more research and development, and it requires money to develop something sophisticated. You're going to find yourself coming and hitting a brick wall. So just be aware, exhaust your possibilities, but if you are dealing with that type of population, know that it's probably time to regroup and sort of plan a different strategy.
Absolutely, thank you. Other questions? Gentleman there.
Hi, I'm Albert from Dyslexia Association of Singapore. Just to add on to the last point Andres has mentioned, it's right about always balancing between a free software as well as a paid software, the pros and cons. And the reality is that very often there is the limitations are very real of having sometimes free applications, because a person with dyslexia, for example, they may need to have certain adaptation of the software to make it more user-friendly for them. And I think a learner with dyslexia is in all of your classrooms. It's not just going to be in a special educational needs classroom. So it's a very real thing. So when you're investigating apps and softwares, be mindful about what exactly is the most important learning outcome you're hoping to achieve for your learners. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. More questions? I was interested in just finding out about actually what are the key priorities in your markets for English language training, and just finding out if there are actually any similarities or there are very different challenges for you in each of your kind of core areas.
I could start. This is actually one of my favorite topics. As I defended my PhD just 2 months ago, and my topics connected with my research are connected with self-regulation and language learning strategies. And the topic of self-regulation and self-regulated learning skills is something that we cannot ignore when speaking about learning, and it doesn't actually matter if we're speaking about learning a language or any other discipline. Self-regulated learning skills and learner autonomy are always there. And it's becoming even more important when we speak about independent learning in web-based environments, in blended environments, and personalized learning environments. So I suppose that this is something that teachers should pay a lot of attention to while teaching a language or whatever discipline. We have to be prepare our students for independent learning, for lifelong learners, and whether they acquire independent learning skills during their school years or not depends a lot of us as well.
Thank you.
I'll say that we've just launched project-based learning in the schools, and I think the challenges going forward for us and the key focuses are doing effective tech training, choosing the right tools for the students and teachers, and just pushing the product forward so that it's the best learning experience and that the teachers are probably the most comfortable delivering it as well.
Okay, Andreas, what do you find?
Well, so someone asked me yesterday a very interesting question. They asked, is your software student-based or is it more teacher-based? And that question really fascinated me because, one, I didn't really know how to answer the question, so I had to think about it. But the more that I thought about it, and I asked, well, why are you asking this question? And so he went on to explain that in the environment that he resides in, the kids are so advanced when it comes to technology that they literally run circles around the teachers. And in doing that, that exercise makes them bored. So they get bored in an environment where they're supposed to be learning. So if you think about it, it's kind of a toxic soup because right off the bat, you're starting on the wrong foot. Luckily, with our software, it's the type of environment where you can push material out to the child or the student, the adult. But just as well, if the teacher is busy or hasn't uploaded anything, you can do it on your own. But so it made me just think about the type of environment and the necessities, the needs, and sort of the payoffs and the costs that are involved, time and resources and so on and so forth. Somewhere in there, I think I might have answered your question, but maybe not. So you tell me if you...
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Mamoru?
Yeah, as I introduced the recent advance in machine translation and at Google and Microsoft, I think we cannot ignore machine translation when teaching language, especially the language itself is completely different. For example, Japanese syntax is very different from English, so people are finding it very hard to construct a correct grammar. So in that way, people tended to use machine translation when they learn or when they need to compose the sentences. And so in the last 2 years, machine translation has been improved a lot. So I think people cannot distinguish human translation and machine translation at this moment. So if you haven't tried recent Google translations, I recommend you to try that. And so that will gradually change how we teach or how we learn English or other languages. Like we use word processors instead of writing by hand. So in that sense, machine translation can change the whole learning experience.
Fascinating. Thank you.
Do you think that the limitations of a Google Translate, when will the limitations of a Google Translate or any of these platforms, I'm just going to use Google Translate because it's probably the most popular translation tool out there, when will those limitations of the lack of natural language, when do you foresee that happening? Because yesterday I had this same conversation with somebody, and we were talking about how the translation sometimes is just it's a horrible translation, but then sometimes it's right on, it's dead on. And so as I think about, for someone that's learning English as a second language, depending on what language that they're choosing, the translation may be completely off or not, but if they're not yet a native speaker, how would they know how good that translation is? So when do you see that sort of evolving a little bit more, maybe going to the next level?
Yeah, you need to learn how to read the produced sentence, but you don't need to produce the sentence from scratch. So that's the difference. In Japanese, people use keyboards to type Chinese characters. So younger generations lacks the ability to write correct Chinese characters by hand because it's too complicated. And people, almost all the people use keyboard and smartphones to input complicated sentences. So I think that kind of tendency will occur in language learners in English learning countries.
I'm actually going to ask a colleague at the back who we were talking earlier on today about actually some of the limitations of some products on language learning and the need to try and develop local dialects when you're explaining things. So actually, could I have a mic just because it was really interesting, your point, if you don't mind. Get a mic for the gentleman at the back, actually. That would be great.
Well, this morning we were chatting about the local accents, for example, text-to-speech software or speech-to-text software, when you have a local accent like Singapore English, Singlish, and the difficulty of ensuring that the machine is able to recognize the pronunciation that's being made by a speaker from Malaysia, from Singapore. That has always been a major factor. In fact, Andres, yesterday I was having a chat with you on the exact same issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the kind of limitations that is very real, and when will we be able to narrow the gap so that our learners in Asia will be able to fully utilize the SCD technology that's available to enhance their learning. I think that is a point maybe for the panel to think about.
Do you think that's something that actually we've got that opportunity to do that yet?
So in having this discussion with him, for sure, I mean, my wheels were turning right there, like absolutely. Because our software already does that in other languages, right? So it will read this, let's say, if you say it, I want you to read this in English, with a French accent, with a Dutch accent, it will do so. So naturally, for Singlish, sure, of course, it should absolutely do it. For any of these Southeast language, the cadence is obviously vastly different. It's something that can easily be done. It's just a matter of doing it. But I think it's duly noted.
So hopefully, now I thought like that in Singlish, the software can actually pick up this accent, and then that'll be very good. Isn't it wonderful? Anyway, just a pitch for my session. I'm going to be speaking at the Stream A, just about 3:15, on special educational needs. So come by and have a listen to what I'm going to talk about there. All right.
I like that
you.
advertisement.
Thanks for the
you.
shout out.
Any final questions for anybody? If not, I've got a final question. It's what would your one top tip for ensuring that English language training is effective be?
For me, I think it's what I said earlier. Like, if it doesn't add value, don't use it. And that is my guiding light for me using it in a classroom as well.
Sounded like a tricky question, but I'm still trying to find an answer. Well, I would still come back to the same things I mentioned before. It doesn't really matter, is it language teaching or teaching any other discipline. To make it efficient, to make it effective, the learner, first of all, has to be able to understand why he's learning, what he's learning. He should be willing to take control over the learning process. And once he's aware of all these things, I suppose that the learning process will be much more efficient for him. And teacher is just a supervisor for him, the one who stands by and helps.
Thank you.
Yeah, to once again piggytail off of what you were saying, I really like what you said before, earlier on. An instructor needs to lead the ship, right? A failure to plan is a plan to fail. I think even in this endeavor, in this type of discipline, if you're going to be successful, you need to have someone who has a very direct intention and knows exactly what they want to get out of it before embarking on it. And I think that's where teachers come in. So technology is wonderful, but without that human element,
Thank you,
where it starts
Mamoru.
and stops.
Okay, yeah. So I think it's very important to motivate students or self-motivate the learning process, because learning a language is fun, but it will be, I mean, in 10 years or so, it will become something like going to gym for workout, for put on muscle weight, going to school to learn language. So after the several years, the quality of machine translation will improve a lot, and I'm sure that will happen in the near future. So we need to we ourselves need to make the learning process very self-motivated.
Thank
and
you.
that can be improved by the technology as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Well, I think we've come to the end of our session now, but if you could all join me in thanking Andreas, Katrin, Marianne and Mamoru. Thank you so much.